It's not hard to imagine how the catastrophe of extinction would befall humanity. The cause may stem from various factors, such as an all-out nuclear war, the impact of a massive asteroid, or a devastating pandemic. If we assume that after an extinction-level disaster, a small number of people are lucky enough to survive, how many would be needed to sustain and advance human civilization? And the answer is very simple: it's up to you. Each disaster will lead to its own distinct apocalyptic scenario. Nuclear winter. However, if we disregard certain conditions and only consider population size, the minimum necessary number would be very small compared to the 8 billion people currently living on Earth. According to Cameron Smith, an anthropology professor at Portland State University, USA, who has studied early human civilizations. This gives Cameron Smith a deep understanding of humanity's chances of survival after the apocalypse. Smith believes that if global civilization collapses, major cities will be the hardest hit. This stems from the fact that people in cities rely too heavily on electricity and food supplies from elsewhere. Therefore, when the apocalypse arrives, the survivors in the cities are forced to evacuate in search of essential resources to sustain life. In the early stage of the Stone Age, beginning when the last ice age ended approximately 12,000 years ago, humans began developing agriculture, forming numerous small villages across the world with populations ranging from a few hundred to around 1,000 people. Smith noted that these are fairly isolated populations, but I suspect there remains a connection between them through human herding activities. In an apocalyptic scenario, I believe the possibility of humanity reverting to the primitive era of the Stone Age is quite plausible. Smith observed that a community with only a few hundred survivors would have to find a way to sustain its lineage. However, inbreeding will become a major challenge for small-sized populations. The consequences of inbreeding are clearly evident in the downfall of the Habsburg dynasty. Spain was ruled throughout the 16th and 17th centuries. This dynasty consistently practiced inbreeding until 1700, when the royal bloodline ended due to King Charles II's infertility and facial deformities. For Mr. Exit Bao, co-founder and CEO of the Global Disaster Risk Institute in the US, he supports preventing potential disasters. However, in his research, Bao also mentions the possibility of constructing shelters to protect people in the event of a global catastrophe. He stated that when a disaster occurs, we must take the necessary safety measures to ensure that at least a small part of the community can preserve human civilization. The most important thing to survive the apocalypse is to have a safe shelter. The survivors can be separated from the threats that endanger them. For example, survivors could be relocated to certain island nations like New Zealand or Australia. In a hypothetical scenario where humanity attempts to flee from the apocalypse, what is the minimum number of people needed to sustain human existence? A 2018 study published in the journal The No Observative Interlateralist Society found. The passage was written by astrophysicist Frederick Marin-Chauchy. A group of 98 people is sufficient to undertake the 6,300-year journey, traveling through the hypothetical universe complex at current technology transfer speeds to reach the Procyon Centauri B star system. An Earth-like exoplanet, capable of supporting life, is orbiting the star Procyon Centauri, the closest star to the Sun. The Procyon Centauri B crew must have exactly 98 members, divided into 49 pairs. Like saplings growing independently, unrelated to one another, these are the people willing to pass on their genes. Another important issue is the extent to which inbreeding will be applied. After considering various cases, a married couple must not be blood relatives in order to have children. Frederick Marin's research team conducted a total of 100 mission simulations, with varying crew sizes to determine the optimal success rate. The results are quite fascinating. Harry Tett's algorithm predicts that with a crew of 14 couples, the mission will fail disastrously. The entire crew will perish before reaching Procyon Centauri B. Such a small group would not have enough mobility diversity to survive. Through research conducted on animals, scientists observed results from 25 experimental pairs. With a carefully calculated reproductive plan, this group of organisms can sustain their existence indefinitely. However, Harry Tett's algorithm is far more brutal. Like the stark contrast between Earth's natural conditions and the lethal cold of the cosmos, With 25 men and 25 women, nearly half the crew would perish before reaching Procea Mars Centauri. The primary cause is due to an adverse random event that occurred approximately 6,300 years ago. According to Harry Tett's algorithm, the success rate only reaches 100% when the crew has exactly 98 members. This means there are 49 couples. At that point, we can confirm that, under the influence of the factors in the experiment, to complete the 6,300-year journey to the planet Procea Mars Centauri b, the crew requires a minimum of 98 members. Thus, over time, the population will become increasingly diverse in terms of migration and grow healthier. Under specific conditions, the breeding of surviving and selected individuals must be closely monitored. Moreover, if feasible, dividing the 500 people into separate spacecraft appears to be the safer option. This group can maintain movement diversity thanks to a larger number of breeding pairs. This can be considered a simulation study that lays the foundation for more detailed experiments in the future. Since the success rate of conception in space differs, the likelihood of giving birth to a healthy child is also lower due to the effects of cosmic radiation. The likelihood of disaster will decrease even further, but social conflicts could also arise when hundreds of people live together on a single spacecraft. An improved Harry Tett algorithm could overcome these limitations while also conducting a new series of tests to produce more accurate results. We cannot foresee when or how the catastrophic destruction of humanity will strike. Therefore, calculating optimal strategies to ensure humanity's survival after a disaster is an extremely critical task. Earth is not just a planet, but also the shared home of humanity. Therefore, protecting Earth is the responsibility of all of us. This is not the responsibility of any single individual, organization, or nation, but a shared duty for all of us. Humans are entirely capable of steering the course of life on Earth toward a better direction. Without change, humanity will push itself to the brink of extinction.